Inshallah, we are going to dive straight into our discussion today. And all I can promise you is the next 2-3 days are going to be a bit difficult. And the reason they're difficult is when you put your research together and you try to simplify it, it's not quite possible. And the reason is because there's a lot of contention when it comes to this specific topic: the death, the crucifixion, the ascension of Isa alayhi salam. There are Muslims that believe that Isa alayhi salam is not coming back. There are Muslim scholars who say that this is not true. There is people in the Christian faith that believe that he's dead or he's alive. We're going to go through all that today. I'm not so concerned about what the Christians believe as much as I am concerned with what the Muslims believe. And so all we're going to do today is analyze through the Bible what happened. Just start analyzing. We're not going to go through the story. And what we're going to do is build the case for 3 verses. The 3 verses you need to understand, and I've repeated them a few times only because they directly and indirectly contextualize what happened and what's going to happen, inshallah. So today, inshallah, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Today, inshallah, we are going to continue our series from the Maseeh to the Messiah, part 4, where we're going to be talking about the death/ascension and why. What's happening here? As you all remember, we covered 90% of his life yesterday, right? In a nutshell, we went through his young age, we went through the signs of prophecy, we learned about him aggravating the Jewish priests, and so far, based on what the Quran limited and the Israeli narrations put together, we kind of painted a wholesome picture, inshallah. So before we get into that, rules for today, keep in mind tomorrow we are going to have more people, inshallah, attending. I'tikaf starts from tonight. Tonight is the 21st night of Ramadan, which means it's one of the possible nights of Laylatul Qadr. So as Sheikh Arsalan said yesterday in our Makkah program, it's not even recommended to teach or to learn or to read in this blessed time. We will continue this, inshallah, only because it was promised beforehand, and our goal isn't to take away from your personal ibadah and seclusion. Rather, it is to help enhance the quality of what you are going to be secluding and devoting yourself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for. Seclusion is powerful. We learned that from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He became a prophet through his seclusion in the cave of Hira. Maryam alayhi salam, she became the mother of one of the greatest prophets through seclusion also. So there are multiple examples that we can give, but inshallah, keep in mind that we are doing this for a greater purpose, inshallah. No pictures, no audio recording, no video recording, and no discussion of the content until or unless a complete course is complete. There may not be a recording after Eid on the website, but the purpose is to basically start this discussion. We will, inshallah, hopefully host a class in the latter portion of this year, where we'll go through this again with the PowerPoint presentation, everything else upstairs, where we can have better access to projectors and, inshallah, have an ability to have an open discussion. So again, sisters and brothers, I'm going to say this until your ears hurt. There are 3 important reasons why we're doing this. The first and foremost is Isa alayhi salam, the most controversial figure in this world. We're discussing him because the Antichrist, Messiah, is also someone people consider to be Isa, and so we want to differentiate between the two, and thus we are leaving no stone unturned when it comes to the discussion of Isa alayhi salam. After which, inshallah, we'll be discussing the Antichrist, and we talked about why. And last but not least, we'll be talking about Gog and Magog, that based on certain traditions comes later, but based on certain signs, they come in between the two, or before and after the two. It kind of all encompasses this subject matter. And I also related to you twice the hadith of what the Prophet ﷺ said, and so I want you to keep on remembering that. Yesterday, we looked into the life of Isa alayhi salam and understood from his childhood till the decision that was made to execute him. We got that covered, right, inshallah? Today, we want to study what occurred in the final days and hours that led up to his death. When we say death, we could also say ascension. Does that make sense? Death to some, ascension to others. So today we're beginning to cover the third matter regarding Isa alayhi salam. Could anyone tell me what the first and second was? The second one was his life, and the first one was, we talked about it for 2 classes. Divinity, right? We're discussing number 1, the matter regarding Isa alayhi salam, divinity. Is Isa alayhi salam God? Through the New Testament we discussed that. Day before yesterday we discussed, is God Isa alayhi salam from the Old Testament. So we cross-examined what was the first matter in regards to Isa alayhi salam. Is he divine in any way? Yesterday, while we were discussing his life, we touched a bit on the Trinity concept and him being not the son of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just to wrap up affairs and make sure we left no T's crossed or no I's left without being dotted, only for the sake of making sure that we're moving in a structured format. So today we're going to go into the end portion of his life. Where we left off yesterday, the Sanhedrin, the highest judicial and ecclesiastical council of the Jews. That word took me a lot, okay? It took a lot of practice. They began to meet to plot against Isa alayhi salam. We already talked about why. He was a thorn in the path of their power structure. Very few put aside their power for the sake of the truth. And that's why not having power sometimes is a blessing. Because when you have a status of power, you have to consider, what are the ramifications if I were to X, Y, and Z? If I'm the king and I embrace Islam, what happens to my kingdomship? What happens to my power and authority? Well, a more contemporary example, if you're Muslim and you're running for President of the United States of America, what are the chances that people will even consider you to be a viable candidate? Right? So, some celebrities out there in the world are open about their Islam, and so are many athletes. And many more are very quiet about it. They don't talk about it at all. They don't talk about their Islam at all, because they feel that they may have to compromise between the two if people found out. Look at, for example, A.R. Rahman, a very famous, mashallah, talented singer from India. Everyone knows he's a Muslim. Everywhere he comes to America, he prays. He came to Nashville, Tennessee for a music festival. He made sure that the masjid would be open for him to come and pray. But the second his daughter wore a burqa, hell broke loose on Twitter. That A.R. Rahman is suppressing his daughter and making her into this and that. When you're in a position of power, life isn't easy. When you're famous, life could become miserable. So these people were not only famous, they were revered, they were spoiled. And that's what I said on my tafsir this week. When I talk about scholars, with all due respect to everyone, I'm not here advocating or putting down any sect or ideology of Islam or anything else. I don't have the time or the breath to do that. But please don't put scholars on a pedestal. Don't put scholars on a pedestal. Back home countries are ruined because of this purpose. And here in America, we're on the same path with these super celebrity scholars. Everyone's a human being. If Yusuf alayhi salam says, وَمَا أُبَرِّئُ نَفْسِي, even I can't claim that my soul is pure, my nafs is in control. Because inna an-nafsa la'ammaratun bisu, the nafs is constantly commanding to do wrong. Illa ma rahima rabbi, except for the people who Allah has given raham upon and mercy, that He has helped them tap on their nafs and contain their nafs. If Yusuf alayhi salam is saying that, and being such a handsome person was falling prey and victim to the seduction of Aziz and Misr's wife, remember one thing, celebrity status isn't what our religion's about. It's never been about that. And I fear that this new rise in the West, it's been in the East, will lead to the demise of a religion very soon. So, the Jews are now plotting because Jesus is now bringing food down from heaven. He's already taken people out of the grave. He's already told people what they're eating in the home and where they hid their belongings. They need to kill them. So while they're having one of their meetings, one of the 12 apostles of Jesus, what was his name? Judas. He went to them and said, "What will you give me if I deliver him to you?" So he bargained a deal for 30 pieces of silver, shekels, 30 pieces. It's like $30. Like, you could laugh and say, $30? What was wrong with this guy? But at that time, $30 was a lot. My parents came to Canada in early 70s. They bought a house for $9,000. $9,000. They sold the same house for close to $200,000 in the 80s. Right? So you understand. But at that time, $9,000 was a lot of money. You could buy a car for $3,500, $4,000. At that time, I think they bought the Nova. If anyone remembers the Nova, that thing's a tank. Man, you could smash into those shopping cart things. You'll take the whole thing down. That thing was a tank. It was solid doors. So, but again, that time it was a lot. But when you look at it now, sisters and brothers, it was nothing, right? Imagine what's going to happen tomorrow when Allah says people who sell their religion for a small sum of money. So a person could say, look, let me sell my religion or my brother or sister or set them up for a few $1 million. It sounds good, right? And tomorrow, what will $1 million look like? $10. Understand? If what happened 3 decades ago or 4 decades ago looks like nothing, $9,000, imagine what the millions of dollars of sale will look like tomorrow. Nothing. So he sold out his religion. And what they did was they sent this message to the Roman governor, Pilate, that Jesus is plotting against the security of the Roman Empire, which meant he's committing treason. And let it be known for who don't know here, in America, treason is a crime punishable by death. You will be killed. You will be killed for treason. And that is why, according to the Obama administration, Anwar al-Awlaki committed treason, and that is why he was killed. You know, based on the laws, that's what they did. I'm not here to talk politics. What I'm saying, there is evidence that in this country, treason is death penalty, and same was at that time in the Roman Empire. If anyone tries to harm the security of the Roman Empire, who, by the way, were ruling the Jews at that time, he's going to be done for. So, of course, they arrested Jesus. We talked about all this. They sent him to Golgotha, a place of the skulls outside the walls of Jerusalem. Has anyone checked on Google or found where Golgotha is? I want you to remember 3 places: Nazareth, Jerusalem, and Golgotha. I want you to Google those things. Golgotha. Not Google them, study and find out what is the proximity of this area. Because remember, Romans were ruling the area. Jews were under their rule at that time. So Gol, G-O-T, Golgotha, and then H-A, Golgotha. And that means a place of skulls. That's where people are killed. Not only did they take Jesus there, but they crucified him, and they crucified 2 thieves with him. It was a sign of mockery and humiliating the person. Moving forward today, what does Islam believe? Because that's what we covered up to last night. The faith of Islam came with views quite different from the extended Gospels with regard to the end of Isa alayhi salam. The Quran affirms that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not permit the Jews, the people of Israel, to kill him or crucify him. So now you need to make a timeline. Jesus is arrested. Jesus is going to the cross to die. Where did the thing change? Where did the story change? On the cross? Before getting on the cross? Where did the story change? The Quran is telling us that Allah did not permit the people of Israel to kill Jesus or crucify him. Did the Jews kill him? No, let's follow the story of the Bible. Did the Jews kill him? No, who was it? Romans. So that means before the Jews handed him off to the Romans, Jesus was already gone. Somewhere between his arrest and his handing over, there's something that happened right between that 2 time period. Because Allah did not permit for them to even get that far. Does that make sense, everyone? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also tells us that He saved him by raising him to heaven. Okay, so we are learning the time. We're learning what happened. Allah raised him. And the last thing you need to remember, Allah put someone else in his place. Okay? Before he was getting transferred, the story changes between the Quran and the Bible. What happened? He's raised. What happened over here? Did they just go like, oh, he vanished? No. Someone else was in their hands at that time as the transfer happened. And inshallah, maybe tomorrow Monday, because it's extensive. It's very tiring to kind of summarize this and break it down. But alhamdulillah, I think it was needed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala declares in chapter 4, verse number 157 to 159, again, and because of their saying in boast, we killed Messiah, Jesus, son of Mary, the messenger of Allah. But they killed him not, nor did they crucify him, but the resemblance of Jesus was put over another man. Does that make sense? The resemblance of Jesus was put over another man, and you could take that two ways. Either the exact features of Isa was put on another person. We're looking like a Mission Impossible type of scene here, where they wear the mask and they look like someone else. Or what it means is that the people that took him for crucifixion didn't know Jesus from anyone else. And okay, this is a prisoner, right? This is a guy. Just like, the Romans not knowing who the guy exactly was, the exact person. We know Jesus is coming, this guy's coming. Like, there was no, what you call, photo out there with Interpol saying, look for this criminal. It was just handed the guy over. And I consider the second to be more possible only because the story in the Bible will kind of allude towards that, inshallah. So, those who differ therein are full of doubts. They have no certain knowledge, but they follow conjecture, thoughts and opinions. Allah then clarifies, for surely they killed him not, but Allah raised him up to himself, and Allah is ever all powerful and wise. Remember the three things: the raising, the killing of someone else, and the resemblance. Remember these three things, inshallah. Why did Allah raise him? Before we go into why did Allah raise him? Allah didn't raise Musa alayhi salam. Allah didn't raise Dawood alayhi salam. Allah didn't raise Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam for that. He went for the Mi'raj. But Allah didn't raise a prophet. What was the reason? You have to understand that too. Right? That we don't want to leave that stone uncovered. Why did Allah raise him for? Because it's unorthodox when it comes to all other prophets and dealings of those prophets. So, number one, know as a Muslim that Allah decreed for this to happen. This is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had decided beforehand is going to happen to Isa alayhi salam. Some people say, it's written in some books, so I'm not going to be here to question the authenticity nor to negate it, but some people say that every prophet was told about this ummah. This nation, as we've talked about in the beginning, is the best nation. We are going to be how much of the people of paradise? How many? The ummah is going to consist of what percentage? Half? We're going to be half of the people of paradise, right? The Prophet ﷺ said first a quarter, then a third, and then he said, I pray to Allah you will be half of the people of paradise. You are special people. Your parents are special people. Your children are special people. You are born in an ummah that every other prophet was told about, and Allah boasted about you to them. You understand this? This is big stuff. You know, it's like a parent always talking about their best child. My child is so much this. And they're saying in front of their other children. If you talk and we tell you not to do that, never talk about one child in front of other children. All your children are different, but they're good and they're great children. But if you keep on bragging about one in front of the other, what does it make the other feel like? Garbage, right? Why is that one always special? Right? Does that make sense? So, when Allah told the prophets of this nation, the prophet said, oh Allah, give us that nation. We want to have that nation. Allah says, no, I have appointed Muhammad al-Mustafa as the prophet of that nation. So then they would say, make us a part of that nation. But that wasn't destined for them. Again, it's written in some books. I'm not here to discuss the authenticity or legitimacy of it, but some say that Isa was the only one whose dua was answered. And that may be because the decree of Allah was already there, and because Allah had a greater reason for him to go and come back. So Allah says in chapter 3, verse 55, and remember what Allah revealed when Allah said, O Isa, إني متوفيك ورافعك إلي ومطهرك من الذين كفروا وجاعل الذين اتبعوك فوق الذين كفروا إلى يوم القيامة. In text, what is messing up a lot of our discussions is the format. For example, many scholars will write off my claim of saying Gog and Magog already exist only because they say, according to the Hadith in Muslim, it says Dajjal will come, Jesus will come, and Gog and Magog will come. So they say there's a order, and you have to follow the order. Make sense? If you take that order to be literal, we have a problem right now. And that is why, this ayah that I just read is the reason why many scholars, notable scholars, say that Jesus is dead, Jesus isn't coming. Because Allah says, remember when Allah said, O Isa, I will take you. Mutawaffika means wafat. Tawaffat, tuwuffiya, dead. Person's going to die. Right? So Allah is saying, I'm going to take you. And then Allah says, I'm going to raise you to myself. Something's wrong there. Inni mutawaffika, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to bring death upon you, not kill you, but bring death upon you, and I'm going to raise you to myself. And I'm going to clear you from that what the disbeliever said. And I'm going to make those who follow you superior to those who don't follow you till the day of resurrection. So many contradictions here. Because if he's dead, how is Allah going to raise him? And if Muhammad ﷺ is a final messenger, how are the people of Jesus going to be the best people till the day of judgment? Do you understand what is happening here? There's a lot of contradictions here, a lot of loopholes, a lot of discussion. And we're going to analyze this a bit more tomorrow, but let me just go into it in the next half an hour quickly, because we have a few more slides, quite a few more slides to cover. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, ultimately you're going to die. Mutawaffika is to say that you're going to die. You're not supreme, you're not divine. There are some in the Muslim community that believe Muhammad ﷺ has a sense of divinity to him, that he's divine. There's another thing that they say is Hazir Nazir, he's everywhere. This means you are saying the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is like Allah, and nothing is like Allah. Remember that. Nothing. Nothing. And it's a very touchy subject because some people believe in it. And some believe that he's not created from the same material. Some believe he's not human. So Allah said in the Quran, إِنَّكَ مَيِّتٌ وَإِنَّهُمْ مَيِّتُونَ O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, you're going to die. You're going to taste death, and so are your followers. No one is above the law of death. Everyone has to die. Because you remember that. Everyone has to die. The Quran is saying it. I'm not saying it. I'm not being disrespectful by saying it. Rather, I'm trying to read and say what Allah is saying to us. Innaka mayyitun. You're gonna die. And so he died. Wa innahum mayyitun. And everyone else after him is gonna die. So no saint or no person could come up and say tomorrow, oh, I am some type of divine power. No, you're nothing. Allah is everything. Qul huwa Allahu ahad. So what's happening here is, not only is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam you're going to die, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is even saying, وَإِن مِّنكُمْ إِلَّا وَارِدُهَا. Every one of you has to pass over hell. Every human being and jinn. Every human being and jinn has to pass hell. You have to pass hell to understand what is heaven. Those who won't make it across will fall in. Those who make it across will go to paradise, inshallah. May Allah make us amongst them. Ameen. That is why it's written like in Spectacle of Death, when a person answers the 3 questions in the grave, a window of hell is opened by his foot first. You answered him right, hell opens up. And the angels say, this is what you saved yourself from today. And it's closed. And then a window's open on the right side. That's why we bury our deceased, we bury them on the right side. Why? Because the window of paradise will be open, and it will be said, Num nawmat al-urus. Go to sleep like the first night of a marriage, of someone's marriage. Go to sleep, rest, tranquil, peace, until the day that you're risen. So hell will be shown to everyone. Even the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ will have to cross over that. So we learn from here that Isa ﷺ will die ultimately. But before that, he will be raised to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's purpose of raising him is to send him back down to clarify that he is not God. He is not the Son of God. He is not the Holy Spirit. Allah has breathed the soul into him, yes. But he's not like a Holy Spirit, kind of a soul of God or anything else. Does that make sense? And he will, according to the hadith, we'll get to it in a few days, he will break the cross. He will kill the swine. And that's why it bothers me to my core. Muslims will say you can eat from Christian outlets. Christians eat pork. The Bible, the Torah says you cannot eat pork. Even Joel Osteen is recorded by saying it's in the Bible that we're not supposed to eat pork. Jews don't eat pork. Christians legalize pork. Pork is not even an edible food. I'll talk about it with Gog and Magog, inshallah. Why pork is so common. Why pork is so widespread. Even though every single research has concluded none of the blood types are suitable with pork. Rather, the pig is the most closest to the human, and that is why it's like a sense of cannibalism. They are grafting human body parts on pigs right now. Why? Because the bodies almost mimic in certain ways. In certain ways. But the pig is an animal, even after it's dead, bacteria grows on it. Worms. You could boil that thing, you can fry that thing, you can roast that thing. Worms are still growing on that thing. Because pig is najisul ayn. It's in itself, every aspect of the pig is najasa. It's filth. It's filth. There's nothing pure of pig. But pig has been normalized in our society. It's being promoted in our society. So the people who disregarded the Bible two ways, by not following the Mosaic laws of slaughtering and by eating pork. How can you tell me that their food is halal? I'll eat a Jew's food any day. I went to the Dallas kosher restaurants and I've eaten there with rabbis. Why? Because they are certified slaughtered by the Jewish law. Every person who does the slaughtering in the Jewish tradition has to go through months, if not years of training to do it exactly how the Torah says. Remember, Jews are really stubborn on their law. They're not letting go. We found that yesterday. But the Christians said the law doesn't matter. Yes. Of cancer. How much? And heart disease. Why? 15%. Yes. Keep on eating bacon. And as I said, and this is my personal thing, alhamdulillah, never ate Chick-fil-A. Never want to go there. Never eat chicken from any other restaurant that's not halal. Never. I eat twice pancakes and never again from Perkins, Denny's, or IHOP. Because no one here can tell me that there is no cross-contamination. That bacon sizzles. That goes everywhere. You can smell it in your food. Don't tell me it doesn't happen. Go to Walmart, buy fruits, buy a fruit bowl, buy some salad and eat it. But don't go to these restaurants. Because the one thing America said, you are what you eat. It's a saying here in this country. And the one thing of that pig, its feature, we say in Urdu, behayai, no morality. No moral compass. Lud, immoral. And that's what's happening to our societies. We are what we eat. So, our Prophet, so Allah is going to kill him ultimately. He will come back and die. But he was raised. He was raised so that he can come back and clarify the statement that he is not the Son of God. The Imam will tell him in the masjid, the Umayyad masjid in Damascus, Ya Isa, you are Ruhullah, you are a prophet of Allah. He will say, I am not a prophet of Allah. I have come back as a follower of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He will break the cross, he will kill the swine, he will tell the Imam, you lead prayer, I will pray behind you. Learn these things, brother. This is so important. I don't know why we think of this as a fairy tale. I don't care if it doesn't happen in your time or children's time. Whoever's time it happens is, we better have enough understanding of it so we're not confused at that time. Because in the heat of the moment, you will always be confused and you will lose your train of thought. So he will come back, and then everyone that believes in Isa alayhi salam is believing in who? Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because he will actually come and restore the authenticity of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's mission. And that is why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that Allah will not leave a single house on this earth, but Islam will enter it. لا يترك الله بيت وبر ولا مدر إلا أدخله الله الإسلام. Islam is going to come, but not by street corner dawah and putting people down, not by debating. It's going to come in like this. That it's going to normalize everywhere. People are going to accept and follow. Yes. Mm-hmm. That's going to be our topic of Dajjal, the false prophet. And that's why we're doing this. Inshallah, next year too, as these topics are discussed, as we conclude Isa Islam, we will understand here very clearly who Isa Islam will be amongst them. Like thus far, inshallah, we understood that Dajjal cannot be the God because he will be restricted in his powers. He'll have powers, but he'll be restricted. And Sulaiman Islam asked for a kingdomship only to show that the God's given kingdom is unrestricted. We're making the parallels, inshallah, so we're going to connect those dots. But to know exactly who Isa Islam will be, not the picture, forget the picture on the walls. Just by distinction of what you know, inshallah, it will be able for you to distinguish better with this, what we're going to be doing, inshallah. Yes? That's not the purpose of our existence. Allah said in the Quran, if I wanted, I could give hidayah to everyone. But people will continue to fight. This world is a test. People say, why is the God of mercy, if there's a God up there, na'udhu billah, if there's a God up there, why is the God of mercy not stopping all the wars and bloodshed? This is one of the words that they tell your children when they go off to high school, college, university. The rise of Darwinism, atheism, and being agnostic, this is happening everywhere. A lot of children. Actually, in 2012, an article stated the rise of atheism in Saudi Arabia. It was rising fast. Fast. Why? Because our religion in our Muslim countries have become a sense of debate. We just debate it. No one's talking about living those morals and ethics. No one's talking about those values. Isa Islam plucking the fruits on a tree and feeding the poor people. Like that's what the faith was. You know, getting a fire together for old women so they could spend the night in the bitter cold with some heat. Like this is what our faith is about. Our faith has taken the wrong turn in my eyes. We're talking about jurisprudence. We're talking about authenticity of hadith. We're talking about the status of a hadith. We're talking about what scholar you follow. We're talking about what school of thought is right. Our faith isn't about that. Our faith isn't about that. Every hadith means it came from the Prophet ﷺ. It's authentic. Its status in weight goes down because someone in the chain of its narrators did something contrary to the sunnah, as simple as standing up and drinking. If someone is a rawi, a tabi'een, a tabi'een, or someone who narrated this hadith with a chain from the Prophet ﷺ, the Sahabi, the Tabi'een, the Tabi'i. Now this Tabi'i, he was seen drinking standing up, and the Sunnah is to sit down and drink. The hadith that he's ever recorded or narrated, it has dropped its level of authenticity. Yes. Many people don't know usul hadith, but they keep on debating. This hadith isn't in Bukhari. Imam Bukhari has recorded da'if hadith also. And there are stronger hadith than Imam Bukhari outside the Bukhari's compilation. People don't know 101 of Islam, hadith, the rules of hadith and the sciences of hadith, but there's always these baseless discussions for some reason. So going back to this, because this hurts me, Allah is going to send Isa alayhi salam down to one of the greatest religions on this earth right now, number-wise. The Christians are the largest faith group in this world, and He is going to tell them, no, you're wrong, this is right. But before His word will be taken, there's going to be the Dajjal who's going to really take most of the Christians and Muslims towards feeling that he is the Isa, or he is God, or he is the Messiah, or he's a promised return. So there's going to be so much confusion at that time. So Allah will help him restore the word of Muhammad ﷺ, and that will restore the word of Allah and monotheism, and that's what Allah is alluding towards that. So the Prophet ﷺ told us that Isa ﷺ will be sent down to earth at a related time, which is called the end of time. Many of us people say, oh, Qiyamah's coming, Qiyamah's coming. Qiyamah is not coming right now, it's a long way to go. Okay, what's coming is a big trial. Qiyamah will not come until Isa ﷺ comes back on this earth and restores goodness, but after he marries and has children and he dies, and he's buried next to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, is where the world will start taking its final decline. And that's where lewdness, immorality, lack of trust, wars and killings will go to the highest degree. Humanity will fall that last fall. And they will then be the ones on which Qiyamah will come. But what we learn from the traditions of the Prophet ﷺ is the time that Isa comes will begin the final lap of the end of times. It will be followed after a period of unprecedented peace, justice, and welfare. After that happens, and the world sees goodness once more, it's going to fall. But before that peace, there's going to be a time of terrible trials like the Antichrist, earthquakes, and the emergence of Ya'juj and Ma'juj. And of course, we're going to be talking about that in our series. So, I don't think we'll be able to cover much today, inshallah. He is only a slave on whom we bestowed. Listen to these verses. I wish we projected them tonight. Surah Zukhruf. Write this down for those taking notes. Surah Zukhruf, verse 43 to 59. Chapter 43, verse 59, verse 60, and verse 61. It says, He is only a slave on whom we bestowed our blessings and whom we made an example for the tribe of Israel. وَجَعَلْنَاهُ هُدًى لِبَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ. Who is the He? That Allah is saying, highlight this point, we bestowed our blessings. In the next verse, Allah says, if we wished, we could appointed angels in exchange for you to succeed you on earth. And just after these verses, Allah declares that Isa ﷺ, is who He's talking about, is a sign of the Day of Judgment. وَإِنَّهُ لَعِلْمٌ لِلسَّاعَةِ. وفي رواية, according to different qira'ah of sab'ah, وَإِنَّهُ لَعَلَمٌ لِلسَّاعَةِ. He is a sign of the hour. Have no doubt about it. فَاتَّبِعُونِي هَذَا صِرَاطٌ مُسْتَقِيمٌ. But follow me, this is a straight path. These three verses are helping us solve this problem that we're addressing today. Is Jesus coming back? Why Jesus? Well, why Jesus? Allah said in Surah Zukhruf, which is number 43, in verse number 59, that He has been bestowed Allah's blessing. And Allah talks about succession on earth. And Allah talks about Him being a sign of the hour. Ibn Jawzi rahimahullah says that the first meaning of this verse is that Jesus is a sign of a prediction of the last hour. We can say that this verse is clear indication that Isa will come back to earth at the end of times. That is because Isa has lived 6 centuries before the revelation of the Quran. Allah is revealing this in the Quran, that you're coming back. But Isa was 6 centuries before Prophet ﷺ. That means it's going to happen after the Quran. Does that make sense? Because if people say he already came and he died, then Allah is not going to say he's gonna come. Allah would have said he came and he went. Do you understand? So the verse here, Ibn Jawzi rahimahullah is coming up with this conclusion that I'm reading to you, because Jesus lived 6 centuries before the revelation of the Quran. Consequently, we cannot interpret His first coming as a sign. His birth was a sign, yes or no? His return will also be a sign. He will come back as a sign, but His birth was a separate sign. Allah is not alluding to His birth to be that sign. Does that make sense? Again, what this verse will actually indicate is that Isa will come back to earth towards the end of time. That is to say, during the last period of time before the Day of Judgment. And this will be a sign for the Day of Judgment. Wallahu alam, Allah knows. The Arabic verse that he is a sign of the hour, وَإِنَّهُ لَعِلْمٌ لِلسَّاعَةِ. Some people interpret the pronoun, which is who, وَإِنَّهُ, it, he, to he, in the verse of the Quran. However, the preceding verses explicitly indicate that Isa is mentioned in this verse. He is only a slave on whom we bestowed our blessing and on whom we make an example for the tribe of Israel. So he does not mean the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. It doesn't mean the Quran. It means Isa ﷺ. In Sahih Muslim, it is also stated that the hadith in which it is said that the Prophet Isa ﷺ will descend, it's in hadith also. Remember, we take the hadith to give support to what the Quran is saying. Quran says pray, yes everyone? Does the Quran say how to do takbir, how to make ruku, how to do sajda, what to read in tashahud? No. Hadith supports that. The hadith in Muslim Sharif supports the fact that he will descend at the end of time. And since those narrations, another thing about usul hadith, it has reached a degree of mutawatir, which means it has been said enough that it is authentic. It's authentic. It has reached the status of authenticity. So the hadith is also strong. Hence the Quran verse is going to collaborate with that because the hadith is collaborating with it. Right? So have no doubt in the possibility of Isa coming back, because it is considered through mutawatir, strong hadith, that is one of the signs of the rising, of the day of rising, the day of Qiyamah. Hudayfa ibn Usayd al-Ghifari said, radiyallahu ta'ala, that the Prophet Muhammad came to us all. And we were busy in a discussion. He said, what are you discussing? We said, we're discussing the last hour. Thereupon he said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, everyone say sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, it will not come until you see 10 signs before Qiyamah. And he made, in this discussion, he talked about the smoke. The smoke. فَارْتَقِبْ يَوْمَ تَأْتِ السَّمَاءُ بِدُخَانٍ مُبِينٍ. The smoke means something. It doesn't mean a volcano that erupted in Iceland a few years ago and disrupted transatlantic flights. No. A smoke that will encompass the world. And the only thing I can sit here and tell you, based on what I understand now, maybe it'll be different tomorrow. Because when the Prophet ﷺ told the Sahaba that Dajjal will fly on a donkey, Eeyore doesn't fly. He just about keeps his tail attached to his body. Right? We need to give him some Gorilla Glue, inshallah. But that means to us today what? A plane. Does that make sense? So based on what the Quran is saying, at the time of the Sahaba, it was a question mark. Right? There's going to be smoke. Now we can say, based on the research and the numbers that mashallah was shared also with us from our student, is nuclear warfare. Nuclear warfare that will cause clouds of smoke that will cover this earth for days and days and days. That the sun will not shine. Yes. And if that, based on the pressure that they assume is under the ground, that if that, Allah forbid, volcano erupts, most of North America and parts of South America is gone physically, and of course the cloud, they see the smoke cover the entire world. The question is, when we looked at the Icelandic volcano, the smoke covered the world the smoke covered a great part of the world for a good 15 days. This is going to be a longer period. So again, a volcano erupted last night also, I think in Brazil. So we have a lot of things, but the way our world is going right now, can't be surprised that it will be war, because we're actually moving towards war as a world. Allah's Prophet said the smoke, the Dajjal, the beast. We're not going to talk about the beast in this segment today or in this series. The rise of the sun from the west, the descent of Isa, the son of Maryam, Ya'juj and Ma'juj, landslides in 3 places, one in the east, one in the west, and one in Arabia. And he also spoke about a fire that will burn forth from Yemen and drive people to the assembly. So again, Isa was discussed in the hadith. We don't have time to actually go into that. What will the vibe be on the earth at the time of Isa return? like we talked about briefly, we alluded towards Syria and bloodshed and stuff, right? But that will go more in depth when we talk about him coming down, once we figure out why he's coming down, how that case became. According to Sayyid Nursi, who was a 13th century scholar, he said there will be two philosophical movements described as serious endeavors to establish disbelief that will cause disorder on this earth. The first one will be a covert threat to Islam, while the second class of movements will be openly rejecting the existence of Allah. He said this in the 13th century. Did you hear that? Two philosophical movements described as serious endeavors to establish disbelief would cause disorder on earth. The first one will be a covert threat to Islam, while the second class of movements will openly reject the existence of Allah. So we're living in a world right now where there is a rise and a continuous rise of people of no denomination and no faith. Believe in no God, believe in no religion, believe in no purpose. We're just here. We just happen to fall out. Okay? This is an indirect threat to Islam because it challenges the basic fabric of faith and religion. You are created by a God sent on earth for a purpose, and you're going to be accounted for it. Do you understand those four things? In this movement, there is no God. Now, when you have no God, imagine Plano has no police, no law, no rule. What's going to happen? I could walk into your house right now, shoot you, rob you, eat your food, and walk out. Is anyone going to hold me accountable? It's called lawlessness. When you live in a lawless world, what happens? Chaos. ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر. Chaos will move. Okay? And the first one is more important, a covert threat to Islam. Islam will be directly targeted to delegitimize its position. You're not proselytizing your religion to anyone. You're just being Muslim. But your religion is under attack. Yes or no? It wasn't like that in the 70s. It's like that now. It's under attack by it being an ideology. There are forces right now, and we've talked about this, and I talk about this in my Sharia course. There are forces in the Senate, in the House of Representatives up in Washington, D.C. And it's not a secret. We're not talking about conspiracies. They're trying to advocate that Islam is a cult and a movement and not a religion. Do you know why? So Islam does not have the protection of the First Amendment. Do you understand this? You have the right to your religion in this country. It's a constitutional right. But if we could just prove that you're not a religion and you're thugs, you're gangs, you're a movement of harm, you can be arrested and killed. Do you understand what's happening? Umar Sulaiman said it here 2 days ago. Islamophobia is 125 million. They spent $125 million on Islamophobia. Overall, when I was doing my research, Islamophobia was a $200 million industry. When I tell my people, when I do my Sharia courses, if Islam is so evil and nasty, why do you need to spend $200 million to prove it is wrong? It proves itself. I don't have to do a campaign to say, hey guys, garbage is bad for you. It smells. It smells. You can smell it. No one's going to go up to the garbage and hug it, Eid Mubarak. It smells. You're going to throw it. Keep it away from my clothes. It's garbage. So there's already effort being made. One, ideological. Okay? And that's why we need our scholars and our people to train you all as the community how to prove your religion is a religion and not a cult. If the Muslims are willing to learn. And the second is the terrorist movement. From ISIS to Al-Qaeda and Taliban. What is all this about? It is delegitimizing Islam. You guys are a bunch of jihadists. All you want to do is kill people. Think about how these people just come about with these new Toyota pickup trucks, fully armored, with all tactical gear, with black flags printed from China maybe. I don't know where they're getting their stuff from in war zones, right? And they got videos coming from caves and mountains of Bora Bora, and they're going all over the world. How is this happening? I'm not here to create conspiracy. I'm just asking you to ask a simple question. How did Osama bin Laden, sitting in a cave, produce videos that were publicly publicized to the whole world? Globally. For days. It wasn't a discussion. And in last news tonight, Osama bin Laden sent a message from, no, this was breaking news. This was news discussions. These were panel discussions. This is where people chimed in from religion and faith and politics from the West and the East. A covert threat to Islam. I'm not talking about Muslims. I'm not here to protect anyone. Unfortunately, we haven't protected ourselves. Islam is pure. Muslims are flawed. Take the blame, brothers and sisters. This threat is happening to your religion, and all you can say, oh, brother and sister of America, we are not terrorists. Don't talk it, prove it. Because what this philosopher and scholar said in the 13th century, that Isa alayhi salam will come at a time when two philosophical movements will have dominated this earth. Naturalism is known as the philosophical dimension of Darwin's theory of evolution. This definition surely proves the basis of all ideologies, provides the basis of all ideologies denying the existence of God. Since early times, materialists opposed all religions revealed by Allah, fought against their supporters, oppressed the people, waged wars, and opened the way to every sort of denigration in society. You understand something here. There is a movement in our world to even delegitimize religion. And that is why we do interfaith work. And that's why we join hands with our rabbis and priests. That every religion should be respected and protected. That is from the Constitution and Charter of Medina Munawwara that our Prophet Muhammad ﷺ wrote. It is part of the Geneva Convention. It's part of the United Nations treaty, what they have. That every person has the right to their religion and should practice religion, and places of worship should be protected. We are only as secure as the people that we secure. So, Isa Islam, in his second coming, will struggle against these materialist and naturalist movements, and by the will of Allah, he will dominate them. He will come to uphold God's presence. Is that right or wrong? He's not going to kill people for that. He's going to restore it. Does that make sense? That Allah is true. And He will restore the purity of Islam. Islam is not terrorism. Anyone who takes the name of terrorism with Islam is not a Muslim to me. I'm sorry. Because the core basis and teaching of our faith was to read, was to learn, was to propagate goodness, was to change society, was to cultivate society, was to become an active member and Samaritan or a citizen of a society. Not to destroy people. Our Sharia teaches us if you cannot practice your faith, get up and leave. It's not your land. We don't kill people. And you need to make that point loud and clear. So, who is telling the truth? Now it's 6 o'clock. And we're getting into the point here, and we'll have to stop here because I have to go to UTD, but I'll say this last word right now. We have just started to make the case. Christians believe He died on the cross based on the book of Matthew. Yes or no? Quran says He was not killed, He was not crucified, He was not put on the cross. Yes or no? Who is lying? Simple question. No, we cannot make it. Don't make any assumptions right now. Wait. The Christian group came to me, a Christian university came to me, a college. They came to me, visit me twice. The last visit was very contentious because they were saying if your Quran is the word of God and you believe that the Bible is the word of God and the Bible says Jesus died on the cross and your God said it didn't, whose book is right? I had a very good discussion. I love discussions like that. You understand what I'm trying to say to you? We're building a case here right now. And the case will continue tomorrow, inshallah, that who is right? Is the Quran right or is the Bible right? And remember which part of the Bible is saying this? The Gospels of Matthew, which was anonymous. that was found 60 years or 100 years after Jesus left. Remember I told you, Uncle Ghaziani, for example, a great member of our society. Allah give him a long life. Everyone say Ameen. Allah give him health and goodness, inshallah. Ameen. Now just say he dies 10 years from now. Just say. And we tell someone 100 years after, not his relative, not from this community, not from Plano, Texas. Who do you think Brother Ghaziani was? Oh, I think, he writes anything. And we say, this is legitimate. This is legitimate. Do you think that's right or wrong? It's wrong, right? Only you or your children can write about you because they know you. We can write because we know he's our community member, right? But someone 100 years later from Ethiopia or Abyssinia or from Ghana just says, we were going to write about who do you think Brother Ghaziani is? And they say then, this is legitimate. The Bible didn't speak about it. The Gospel did. The Gospel of Matthew. So I have to leave, inshallah. But this is now getting very interesting. Why? I said we're not going to talk about Dajjal and Gog and Magog until we cross-reference and analyze, cross every T, dot every I, turn every stone upside down to understand who Isa alayhi salam is. Because as the brother said, very important question. How do we know Jesus will be Jesus? Very important question. And that is why we're trying to eliminate every dark gray spot in our heart or in our mind to ensure there is clarity beyond the truth. So clear that nothing could change your mind. We all need that. Because if Dajjal comes in our time, we should pray he doesn't. Because the strongest will fall to him. It's going to be the greatest fitna to occur on this earth. And these signs are happening now more than ever only because we have left the cause of what Islam was supposed to be about. There's a reason why Allah didn't tell us the Day of Judgment. You know why? Because through our actions and devotion and goodness, we are actively pushing Qiyamah away. And when we stop what we're supposed to be doing, we're literally pulling Qiyamah towards us. It's fluid. If everyone negates Allah tonight, Qiyamah could come tomorrow. And all these signs could happen within the night. As Allah took the Prophet ﷺ to Mi'raj, Jannah, Jahannam, everything back down in Laylan, a part of the night, Nakira, a part of the night. So, I want to talk on because it's so interesting, but we have to stop here, inshallah. We'll hold your questions and thoughts for tomorrow, inshallah. I couldn't finish this slide. I still had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 important slides, but we'll add it to tomorrow, inshallah. And we'll continue from there. Pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from tonight as we enter the last Ashra of Ramadan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala open our eyes, our hearts, our minds, our ears to His light and His guidance. And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us through the light of the Quran and the way of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allow us to understand the bigger pictures of the Quran and Hadith and to help protect ourselves and protect the entire humanity. What do we say, everyone? Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Jazakumullah khairan, everyone. Take care, inshallah.